In this year, 2016, one thing we saw, to touch on something you said earlier, was when you were in Temple Storm, that team was famously very good on Cobblestone. Then he came to Team Liquid. This team was really good on Cobblestone. Then even when Simple left, famously the whole reason that ESL New York run happened was fucking winning on Cobblestone against everyone. What is it about Peacemaker and Cobblestone? What do you like about this map?
I think I learned a lot with the Brazilian guys, to be honest. Like, it wasn't a Peacemaker's Cobblestone or anything like that, but I think like the map itself, back in the days at least, it was a map that, yes, you could do a lot of strategies, you could do a lot of stuff, strategically speaking, like a lot of wall smokes towards B, you could run fakes and stuff like that, and I was really good at that back in the days. But also, like, it wasn't a map where you could switch up the pace and do rushes and fast pace CS, which was something that I didn't like back in the days. Like, my teams used to be teams that we either had a lot of like methodical stuff, like slow pace style, letting the players work on getting, developing map control, or like a lot of like fakes and stuff like that. So I think that's one of the main reasons why we were able to play good on Cobble, because it's just like the map is so huge. There's not like a map where you can play fast paced CS and just rush everywhere. I think that's mainly it.
Right. What a player, if people don't remember, the timeline went like this. Even though, like, technically they'd actually already behind the scenes, like, signed Pimp before Simple came to stand in again. But obviously, like, Simple had to play the stand-in events. And then after that, Pimp came in to replace him. But at the time, obviously, like, you rechanged all the roles. Like, Pimp basically was like the support player or something, right? So, like, as you said, the vision at the time was, like, if Peacemaker's like the coach IGL, everyone else can just be players, right? I remember when this move happened, like, some people blamed Pimp, and obviously he wasn't a star player like he was many years back in the day in Denmark. How would you say this lineup of Team Liquid was? Because it was obviously a very different type of team. Like, it had a lot of elements, right? Like, on the one hand, Hiko's maybe coming off his boil and not getting as good at the game anymore. Like, Nitro's good, but like maybe hasn't broken through. Like, Elise starts to get good. It's a team again. Like, I would say it's like, in English you say it in flocks. Like, everything's changing, everything's moving, right? So what was this era of Team Liquid like when you got the Pimp lineup in?
It was a bit weird because, like, I don't remember exactly the main reasons, but I remember that Simple wasn't like our main option back in the days for the team. I think we tried a couple different players as well, but I don't know if it was financially or like because of contracts and stuff. It was just hard to get the players we wanted. But Pimp was one of the options, right? And I remember that, like, we also brought JD. JDM was already in the roster, right? Yeah. So when we brought Pimp, obviously, like, when you go from Simple to Pimp, it's a massive difference in the team, right? And it was a little bit weird because, like, after we had such a good run in Cologne, I remember that, this is some inside story, right? But I remember that, again, remember when I said that maybe we could have kept Simple in the team? I remember that during Cologne, he was already hanging out a little bit with the Navi guys and stuff like that. But I remember talking to Hiko a couple of times, and Hiko was like, dude, I think if we just made it to the finals of the major, maybe if I talk to Simple, we could get him to stay in the team and stuff like that. And then I remember that I don't remember exactly why, but I think Elise didn't want him in the team. The environment itself, it wasn't healthy. It wasn't healthy. So I understood the reason why we didn't even try to go that route and try to keep Simple in the team. But after that run, I think the team kind of felt like a little bit weird. I think Hiko wasn't happy about the fact that we didn't even try to keep Simple on the roster. And then suddenly we're playing with Pimp. I think it was a very weird period. I think Pimp did try his best and during that period, but it was just like too much for him. But I think one of the biggest issues we had with that iteration of the roster was, I think, to be fair, like, me and Pimp didn't get along very well. Mainly because, like, the way I saw the game, the way I wanted to do things was completely different than the way Pimp saw the game and wanted to play. And once he joined the team, he tried to follow my way of playing for a short period of time. And then he started to, like, try to bring his experience from Europe and the way he saw things and stuff like that. And then that brought us to a scenario where the team didn't know who they should believe or who they should follow. If they should try the Pimp style, if they should try mine. And obviously, we had such a good run at Cologne. and then we lose simple, and then obviously the performances would drop a little bit. And again, in my opinion at least, we did have issues after the Cologne run with like, people kind of losing focus a little bit, we just made it to the major final, let's just chill a little bit here, like let's just slow down a little bit, we're playing way too much, let's just go home, get a couple days off, and then come back, and then let's just do 2 or 3 maps a day instead of 5 maps as we used to do. So once you slow down like that, and then you relax, and then you bring a new player, where instead of relaxing, you should be, unfortunately, you have to put up the hours to be able to make that guy feel comfortable, and you to feel comfortable as a team. We did actually the opposite of that. And then that's when problems started. We started losing matches. We started losing confidence. And then, I wasn't really great as well as a coach and IGL to be able to, calm down the team and be like, hey guys, this is my way of calling, like calm down, like it's a process. We just started with a new roster and stuff like that. So for me back in the days, I was a little bit harsh, because at some point people are questioning my calls and stuff. And I'm just like, guys, we just made it to the major final. I was calling like, come on, let's believe me. And I wasn't good, and I wasn't as good as I am right now today as a coach to be able to explain them about the process and stuff like that. So for me back in the days, it was just like my way or the hard way kind of thing. And then that's where I kind of lost, I lost a little bit of the respect from the team, and I had issues with Pimp, and then the team, as I told you, like the team is kind of like in between, like what do we do now? The team is completely lost. And then I think Pimp had a really good understanding of like the way he wanted to try things. He didn't want to IGL, but he wanted me to change the way I saw the game and change the way I was doing things back in the days, and it was too much for me. So it didn't work out. Like, and then we kind of, we were underwhelming. We had underwhelming performances back in the days because of it.
This actually brings up a topic that obviously I wanted to talk about in this interview, which is part of the reason that you as a coach for a while became like a fucking meme. And the premise was like Peacemaker just joins a new team every month, which is exaggeration. But at the same time, as you'll see in a minute, like there were some teams you were in for a couple of months, that's true. And there was one where it was like a month, but that's the extreme version. Part of the reason this became a meme, which I want to get to, was, again, it's like why I say that coaching wasn't really a thing as much back then. It was like still being introduced as a concept even. And even when you do it as a job, like you're saying, it's like as you're doing the first jobs, not every player even maybe buys into the concept. And in fact, that term, buying in, is what I want to discuss here. Because I've noticed as a coach, it feels like you had a similar problem I've known some IGLs to have, which is some IGLs, I always say, like, that's why the leader part of the name can be tricky. Some IGLs are just brilliant tacticians. Like, they can call a great strat, they can design a great strat, they could tell every player what to do, but they might not be a great leader. Like, they might not be able to get the player to buy into it. They might be able to convince him, like you say. Sometimes you know you're right, but it's hard to know how to communicate with this player and to even explain to him that, like, look, even though you don't think what I'm going to do is good, it's actually even going to be better for you, mate. Like, if you can understand like what I'm trying to get you to, we're all going to be better. Like, it sounds like this is something that's been part of your challenge in your career, right?
Yes, right. And I think that's one of the biggest issues, even nowadays, for a lot of the IGLs. As you said, very accurate. Like, I think in order to be a good IGL, you need to be a good leader, and you have to understand how to manage personalities and to get them to do what you want. That's the biggest challenge as an IGL, because like nowadays, especially nowadays, you have so many tools to be able to, grind in the game and know a lot of tactics, a lot of stuff about the game and stuff. But if you don't know how to communicate well and manage personalities and stuff, it doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't matter how much knowledge you have if you don't know how to share that with your teammates. And yes, I think that was probably one of the biggest challenges I had in my career, especially at the beginning. And again, just like, and that's the main reason why I use this example for the players, is that I think I went from being an unknown coach with no experience at all to suddenly in 1 year competing at the major final and qualifying for a lot of events. I think that did take a little bit of a, about my ego, because like I had so much success calling and stuff like that, and my system was working in Liquid and Tempo Storm, that like when people started to question the way I saw the game or the way I wanted to do things just because of 1 or 2 bad runs in events, I think that was a little bit too much for me, like, and back in the days, I wasn't really like a good leader. And again, like, I didn't know how to manage some of the personalities. So as soon as I started getting challenged, it was too hard for me to, stay mentally focused, to just be like, guys, like, this is happening because of this. Like, we're going through a process. We need to do this and that. Like, for me, it was just more like, dude, why are you even questioning me? Like, we just made it to the final of this, we just did this and stuff like that. Just shut up and let's keep practicing stuff. So I think it wasn't healthy at all. Like, I think that period took a toll on my career, and that's the main reason why I fell down after Liquid and started like having, as you said, like a period where I'm coaching teams for like a month or 2 or 6 months or whatever and struggling a lot. That was because like I was trying to reinvent myself as a coach. Also because I think it was actually in the PIMP iteration where Valve came with the new rule where coaches were not able coaches were not able to talk anymore during the games. And when I saw that as well, that also took a massive toll on me, because going from a guy who was already being questioned in that roster, and then when the Valve news came, it was even harder for me to like, oh, now it's not even a choice for me anymore. Like, I have to give up on my IGL thing. Like, it's not a thing. I cannot, it's not like I can write on a piece of paper like, hey, you guys should do this, and just give it to one of the players and be like, hey, just call my style. It's not like this, right? We even tried this actually in ESL New York. Pimp was in the roster. I think it was ESL New York 2016 or 17.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but I remember nitr0 was calling in that team. And I remember that I wrote on a piece of paper a lot of like the stuff that we should do in the game. Obviously, he didn't have to follow all of that, but it was a kind of like a guide, of like things that I think that could work to help me to call and stuff like that. And he actually used a little bit of that, and the other was just mainly him, obviously as an IGL. But after that event, and after some time, I realized like that I would have to go under a period where I had to change my mentality a lot if I wanted to stay in the scene as a coach and stuff like that. And it took a toll on me. It took a long while for me to realize that I should change my approach as a coach. Yeah.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.